Hello everybody, hope you're okay. Now, with the good news that the Valencia Marathon is taking place this Sunday, I thought I'd do a special edition of the Running YouTuber News to see which running YouTubers are running. And I've got Ryan Thomson, Ben Felton from Ben is Running, Nick Harris-5 from the Run Testers, Lloyd Kempson from Trackstar, Anya Culling from Runner, William Fu from The Woo, Andy Maguire from It's On Andy, Kelly Ruck from Kellogg's on the Run, and Steph McCall from 5 Miles Easy. What I'm going to do is have a look at their latest videos, see if we can work out what their aspirations are, and have a quick peer on their Strava if they have any, to see what sort of time I think they might do. So I think I'll do a prediction for each runner, because I think you enjoy that, and if I get it wrong, well, you can have a go at me in the comments later on, can't you, for sure. Okay, so we'll start off with Ryan Thomson here from Cambuslang, who you may recall I featured on his 30-mile training run. He was running about 5:30 pace, quite an amazing run. He's got a current PB, interestingly, from Valencia last year of 2:18:46. And in this video, he talks about his tapering strategy for his marathons and also later on his aspirations for the race. Now, interestingly, he kind of says he doesn't have any aspirations, but then tells you exactly what pace he's going to be running at. So doing a bit of calculations, he was saying that he was hoping to run each 5K between 15:50 and 16 minutes. And I think if he does the 16-minute one, that will just bring him just inside 2:15. So that's quite an ambitious target, isn't it? Because that's basically best part of 4 minutes off his PB. So yeah, that's quite an amazing. I think his training has been going well, and he's certainly been putting the miles in. But I think at that level, to take off 4 minutes off your PB is some going. But I think from what I've seen, he's definitely on target for it. And so I think I'll predict a 2:17 for him. So in terms of his tapering, what he has said in the past, that he doesn't think he's done quite enough quality in the tapering and perhaps eased off too much. So obviously he's going to reduce his mileage, but I think he still wants to put in a few quality sessions in there. So here's Ryan's Strava. So what we want to have a look at here is what has been his mileage in the last few weeks. It looks like he's already now in Valencia. He's done an easy 4 miles today, actually in Valencia. So it's good to know that he's been well prepared. I think if you look at some of his mileage here, I suspect he's not putting it all on Strava. Yeah, I think so. In that sense, it's going to be difficult to analyse completely where he's at. But I think, as I said, I think 2:17 will be a good compromise between doing a PB and perhaps being slightly ambitious. So if he does better than that, then yeah, that'd be great. And if he doesn't quite do as well as what he'd hoped for, well, he's still going to get a big PB if he does 2:17, isn't he? Now, it's interesting here, Kelly Ruck, which is the channel of Kellogg's on the Run. Now, she's the partner of my coach, Matt Rees, the Welsh runner. Now, Matt was hoping to run in this one, but I think he got an injury about 2 months ago and basically has really cut back on his running. So I think from the gathering on this video, Kelly's going to go out on her own and Matt's going to stay at home and target another race maybe next year. So I think it's probably the sensible decision. But Kelly seems really upbeat for this race. And don't forget, she did a 3:56 in Abingdon, whenever that was, about 5 weeks ago, wasn't it? And that was the day when Andy, FOD runner, ran, and he didn't have meet his targets because of such bad weather. So if she can run 3:56 in those conditions, she seems quite confident. You know, I've never seen Kelly so upbeat at all in the video before. And here's Matt here on the bike doing the cameraman duty, as it were. I've never seen Kelly so upbeat in a training video before. She seems really confident now, and I think she's got like a very nice running style there. And it's interesting that she's faster now than some of the infamous everyday runners, should we say. And yeah, she's certainly going to be giving this a go. She seemed a bit coy about her ambitions, but when you listen to it a bit further, she was hoping that the ultimate target was sub 3:45. I think that's the Boston Marathon qualifying standard. I think that may be just a bit of a stretch, but given that she ran 3:56 in Abingdon, then I think she's got every chance. Let's have a look at her Strava just to see where she's at. I think is that guy Corey Sherwin, one of the Gloucester runners that Andy FOD runner knows. Let's have a look. Yeah, catching up with Corey Sherwin. He's going to be running as well, actually. I think he could be on for a sub 2:30. I think his PB is about 2:28, so best of luck to him as well. Oh, Kelly looks like she's met up with Corey actually in Valencia, so good to know that she's also there and preparing well. There's that iconic finish, isn't it? It looks a bit like a swimming pool to me with that sort of really light coloured blue colour, but not quite sure. Is that sort of glass over water? I'm not quite sure what that is. Somebody who's been there maybe to tell me more. Looks a bit slippery, to be honest, so I hope you got good outsoles on your shoes for the final flourish. But if we look here at the mileage, so yeah, that's Kelly on the left, me on the right. She's got a last 4 weeks average of 45 miles a week. And considering that probably includes a very low amount of mileage this week for the taper week, let's look at some of the highest bars here. That's like quite a high bar. Oh, 102 miles. Yeah, don't forget that figure includes cycling, but this figure I think includes just running. So yeah, I think what you would say that on a good week, she's probably getting up to about 50 miles a week. So that's certainly a very good number. And I think that's a lot more than some runners who I've featured in the past have done. So yeah, best of luck to Kelly. I think I predict a 350 for her. That seems a good round number, doesn't it? And big PB, and yes, good luck for her for sure. So next up, we've got Ben Felton here from Ben is Running, now up to 115k subscribers, so doing very well. Congratulations there. Now, he was interesting out on a trip to Portugal, very near to where we've got our place, but I think he very much went to the posh end of Portugal, just a bit left of Faro Airport. We haven't yet quite made on my running travels, but I think in the next couple of trips I might make it over there. So he was on an event with ProDirect and Adidas where they were kind of showcasing with various influencers, not necessarily all your favourite ones, seemed to be ProDirect was there, Lloyd Kempson also running the Valencia Marathon, I just spotted him there as well, and they had the elites, Adam Clark, who's the partner of Charlotte Purdue. Did anyone know that she's now running again? And they also had Samantha Harrison, another elite female British runner, 2:25 in the marathon. So yeah, Ben's doing his customary show you around his hotel, which looks rather posh, as you hope to do on these trips. And yeah, they did a running as well. And so interesting for Ben because his PB is 2:24.46 from Boston last year, which normally you don't think as being the fastest of courses. He's had a few goes before. Interestingly, most recently in Berlin, but he did 2:38.03. Which wasn't really representative, I don't think, of his abilities. I think he went off basically a bit too fast for his fitness, because I think he was through halfway in just under 71 minutes, which I don't think he was really ever going to run two of them back to back. So it'll be interesting to see now whether he goes out a bit more conservatively. And if he does, he may have every chance of beating that 2:24 PB. I'm not quite clear what shoes he's going to be wearing in the race, because he sort of intimates in this that he's going to got another pair of Adios Pro 4s, but I've also seen him wearing On shoes. That's Adam Clark there directing the people out on a run. Those shoes that he's got on there, oh, I'm sure someone will tell me what they are. They do look more like everyday high stack trainers, don't they, from Adidas? And you would hope to see that everyone there has got Adidas shoes on. So yeah, let's have a quick look at Ben's Strava. So here we go. The most recent pictures are clearly from that Portugal trip. Yeah, some Adidas Pro 4s there. Looks like some potential mud on heels there as well. And there's a picture with Samantha Harrison in, who must have the best tan of any runner I've seen. Almost matches her orange top there, doesn't it? Anyway, let's have a look at Ben's recent mileage. So he's got a very high average last 4 weeks of 83.6. So that kind of suggests to me he's actually been up past 100 miles a week. Yeah, here's 110.3. That's pretty high. Is that right? 135.2. Does he do any cycling? No, I think that is basically all running mileage. So that is quite an incredible amount of work there. And yeah, there's a 40k run there in 2:39. So well under sub-3 pace as a sort of a steady run for him, I guess. Just checking that these were all runs. They do seem to be, don't they? I did note this particular session here on the 10th of November, so not too long ago, where he said here, felt unreal. He did 23 miles at just under 6 minute pace, and doesn't quite tell the full story if you look at the splits here. So he started off with 6:13, was kind of steady at around 6 minute miling, and then he ducked down to, well, about 5:20, 5:30 pace for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles at the end. So that's quite an impressive pickup, isn't it? So yeah, based on that mileage and the fact that sessions like this, I think the key for Ben is that if he can control that first half. I think sometimes in the past I felt he's gone off a bit too quick in the first half. And I think if he can reins that in, maybe he even goes a bit slower than he did in Berlin, maybe around 72, 73. He could well come home with a PB, but he's going to be very close to it, I think. I think it just depends on how things go on the day and the weather. I think the weather's looking quite good. Obviously, it's a bit warmer in Valencia than it is back here at the moment. So let's say, let's see, PB's 2:24.46. So let's go, yeah, let's give him a PB, but just 2:24.30. I think he's going to come up the home straight sprinting for it. And yeah, best of luck to Ben. Now, I included Anya Culling as a YouTuber. She has her own YouTube channel there with 9,000 subscribers, but she hasn't done a video now for the best part of a year. I think she's now more focused on her involvement with Runner. She's regularly co-hosts the Runner podcast with Ben Parker, their CEO, who was the infamous guy that ran with Matt Choi in New York Marathon. So it'd be interesting to see how Anya goes in this one. I mean, the last couple of marathons haven't gone particularly well. Her PB is 2:34.45 from Copenhagen last year, but in London this year, when she was on the elite start, she was rather tailed off and a bit of a lonely run. I think she came in 2:44. So you would hope with the bigger crowds in Valencia, then she's going to be somewhere between. But I think since Copenhagen, she's kind of like taken more of a wider view of the sport. She's done a few triathlons, doesn't seem to be taking running quite as seriously as she has been. So let's have a look at her Strava, see what we can see. So here we go. She styles herself in her bio there, 2:34 marathon coach at runner, as I basically just essentially said. So let's have a look at her recent mountain mileage. So last 4-week average is 57.9, and has she done any cycling recently? Not too much, so most of that is going to be focused on the running side. So let's have a look here at what looks like a bigger week. A couple of weeks ago, this was 100. That must be some cycling within that, surely. Let's have a look at another week, maybe the week before. Is that Becky Briggs? Yeah, Becky Briggs, I guessed well. And she's actually running in Valencia as well, so we'll come on to her when we just discussed the elite. So yeah, 18 miles there at 7:19 pace. That's a good steady run for Anya. But yeah, I'd say that the mileage here is a bit below what I thought she was doing for Copenhagen, which I thought more is around about the 80 miles per week figure. But she might be a bit more rested, by having said that. But I'm going to say sort of split the difference between her PB and what she did at London earlier this year. And let's go for a 2:40 clocking. I think a solid performance, but I don't think she's really going to be in PB shape. I'll be surprised, but yeah, my ego might take a batching, of course, if she does well. But good luck to Anya. Now, Stephen Scullion here, the elite 2:09 marathon runner from Ireland. Now, he does an amazing YouTube channel now, 138k subscribers, where he talks about a lot of his training, so it's always worth a look. Anything I would say about some of his videos that sometimes I'm never quite sure whether he actually puts into practice what he preaches, but unfortunately, he had a bit of a mishap, as far as I can tell, a few weeks ago, where he was running along and encountered some dogs. And I think in trying to avoid them, he managed to essentially sort of twist his ankle. So, as you can see here, by the fact he's on a bike, and talking about cross-training for injured runners, unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be out of action and won't be able to run the Valencia Marathon. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shame, because I've been looking forward to see what he could do in a sort of a fast course with a good preparation, because I think he's had obviously the aborted attempt to make the Olympics, but he didn't quite hit the mark, and don't think he's raced too much recently. I think he did win the local Elmbridge 10k race, which is my local sort of 10k in the summer, but obviously not quite the level of a 2:09 marathon runner. Interesting, the bike in here, he seems to be on a sort of a quite nice road bike, almost in like a mix of cycle clothes and a mix of like civvy clothes, doesn't he? But he seems to have got bike shoes on. I suppose you've got sort of like joggers, as the golfers would say, but with a backpack on. So maybe that's for all the camera work. So not quite sure that's the most ideal way of going out for a bike ride, is cross-training for a running with a backpack on. But yeah, it does look a bit cold there. So yeah, definitely worth checking out Stephen, and a lot of good advice for sure. And hopefully he can get back into running soon, and we can see what he can do. Now, this is the channel called The Woo. The guy's name is William Fu from Sheffield. Now, he's got a rather agonising story that he's had various goes to break 3 hours, and I think his closest was 3 hours and 32 seconds at Manchester last year. Not admittedly a guy that I've followed until now, but it's interesting to watch a few of these ones, and he seems to be putting in the work. Obviously, it's been difficult this past week, isn't it, throughout the country with the floods and then a bit of snow here and there. So I think he's gone to do a session in his last taper week on the treadmill, 3 by a mile. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of dedication to the cause. And I think he's sort of saying, well, he feels he needs to go and do this, but isn't particularly enjoying it. But yeah, so definitely a guy that best of luck for. I'm not sure that I detected he was quite in sub-3 shape. He seems to be putting in the work somewhere near it. Let's have a look at his Strava. And let's look at his last 4-week average. I think it's also the benchmark I first look on to see a runner, to see how much mileage they're doing, because I think invariably the amount of mileage you do is heavily correlated to the ability to run a fast race. You do notice that the better runners run more and the not so good runners don't run quite so much. So yeah, 47 miles including the taper week is not too bad. Does that include any cycling? No cycling at all. So it looks like all these mileages. So let's look at peak week here, 62 miles or basically 100k exactly, isn't it? So yeah, it's not a decent amount of mileage for sure. So if you have a look at that 3 hours and 32 seconds marathon PB, Blew up at 38k. Oh dear, that's really tough, isn't it? Let's have a look at the splits to see what he meant. Yeah, he had kilometre splits. So yeah, he was basically on the required pace, and he finished with a 4:32, then a 4:48, and then 8-minute mile average for the last little bit. So yeah, it just slipped out the window. But look at that heart rate, went right into the mid 180s. So certainly was trying. I think he also was just outside 3 hours in the spring, and it looks like here, just sort of eyeballing the mileage, looks quite similar mileage. If anything, I would say he's done a bit more mileage through autumn through to now than he did in the early part of this year. If we scan back to spring last year when he did that Manchester run, yeah, it doesn't look like he was running a huge amount of mileage then. What was his sort of peak there before Manchester? 53. Okay, so yeah, it looks like he sort of put in a regional shift on the mileage at least. So I think he's going to be there or thereabouts again. But yeah, I think, we wish sort of someone like this, you could say he's going to do a 2:59, but I'm not really getting quite that vibe from him. So it's going to be a tough one, isn't it? So just one of those ones you wish he would do a sub-3, because that's so agonising to have so many near misses. But I think realistically, I'd have to go for about a 3:05 from the vibes I was getting. But let's hope I'm wrong with that, and let's see if we can find something. So another new one to me really is It's on Andy channel. They're here. This is Andy Maguire. Now he must live quite near to Andy FOD runner. He does quite a lot of trail running, but he's also quite a prolific road racer as well. And as far as I can see, his best times recently were a 20:02 park run and a 1:33.19 half marathon. So that kind of suggests to me that he is on for around about 3:20, should we say, for the marathon. Now it's interesting here because this dog is called Daisy, same name obviously as Daisy my cat. So there's an instant affinity. And I think this is actually sort of outside. He must have got like a bit of a bit there that sort of backs out. So I think that's why they're all wrapped up to the good, even though it kind of looks like they're inside with a fire behind. So this is kind of what Daisy, my cat, likes in the summer. She likes to have her feet in and her nose out so she can see what's coming. You can see that it looks like a bit of snow or rain there or whatever. It doesn't look too pleasant, does it? So and it's clearly quite cold. So Daisy is well wrapped up there where Andy talks about how things are going. So as I said, I'm not too familiar with this guy in terms of like his sort of ambitions and stuff, but just eyeballing those times and just picking up the vibe I'm getting, I would say that 3:20 sounds about right. Let's have a look at his Strava. So there you go. There's his Strava with these PBs. Not quite sure these are completely accurate, but I think they are. 3:36.28, Newport 24. So for some reason I got his Bushy Park run 2 seconds faster, but just outside 20 minutes. So that would be another target to break. So if he can do 3:20, then surely that will be a massive PB. And look there, interestingly, his half marathon was 1:34, and it's now down to 1:33.19. So I think let's go 3:20 because he seems to be like putting in the work. Having said that, let's have to check his mileage. Yeah, 50 miles last 4 weeks, and again, virtually nothing this week. Looks like he was doing a last-minute track session yesterday. So 800 miles, 800 meters easy, 400 meters at marathon pace, 1 minute rest times 3. Well, that is that seems very much of a token gesture to me, running a lap at marathon pace. That seems almost pointless to me. But anyway, as maybe just a confidence booster. Let's see what pace he actually did for those 400s if we can work it out. What have we got? 156, 157, 156. So he's very consistent on that. So yeah, 7:30s. Well, that's probably not too far out at 3:20 there without doing the maths completely in my head. So yeah, I think 3:20 looks about right based on that impressions there. Well, he actually did 4 of them. Yeah, 4 400s at marathon pace for a session. Yeah, that's probably one of the easy ones you could do, isn't it, for sure? Anyway, don't want to do too much in your tape week. Now, we've got Nick Harris-Fry here for the run testers. I'm not entirely sure whether he's actually running because for some reason he seems to be on Zwift on the bike today, doing, 45 minutes there. So a bit odd. He did a little run this morning. So I do wonder whether he's actually running. His PB is 2:27.34 from London earlier this year. And he's doing quite a lot of riding in his taper week, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Kind of suggests to me that he might have sacked this off. But yeah, look at his average mileage here, 54.8 last 4 weeks. And then look at that bar chart. It looks fairly similar, doesn't it, to the amount he did before his PB. So if he has been running, then it suggests that he's in good aerobic shape, and I saw that he recently did a 32:16 10k in Paris, which I think is his second fastest ever. So yeah, it's clearly good shape. So yeah, this one's a bit hard to call. Have you seen anything from Nick to say that he's maybe not running after all? Let's have a look at what he did in the week before his London Marathon PB. So there's his PB, 2:27:34. Well, pleased with that. And I can't see any biking this week. If we scroll back down, yeah, Sharpener there on the 20th, which was the day before. And then a lunch run there. So I can't see any sign of any cycling in that week. So that just kind of suggests to me that he may be injured. There's a track session. So yeah, maybe I'll not forecast Nick because I'm not sure that he's actually running, but maybe he will surprise us all. If he does run, I think he's probably got every chance for BB based on recent form. But yeah, just a bit of a doubt there in my head. So here's Lloyd Kempson Strava. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Trackster, the YouTube channel, which I think was founded by Alfie Manthorpe. And I think about a year ago, Lloyd and Alfie joined forces to make it more of a viable business, to have more of them. So I think now Lloyd is kind of the brains behind it. I'm not quite sure what position Alfie has, because Alfie's kind of an elite British runner, 5k, 10k runner, that sort of thing. And cross country often seems to the fore of races. But Lloyd himself is not a bad runner, and you can see here that he was clearly out in Portugal with the Adidas event that I mentioned on for Ben Felton. Also looks very immaculate, Lloyd, doesn't he? He was quite look like he could be a model. Yeah, Lloyd's a pretty good runner himself, and as you can see here, he's only just done his PB in Berlin not too long ago at all, 2:29:22. It's a great time to do, isn't it? I think to get under 2:30 has got to be the ambition of all club runners, and the very best ones can perhaps push on to 2:20 and below. Unfortunately, I only stuck at 2:33, so not quite at this level. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he's going now. His Strava now is a bit limited in what he seems to publish. It doesn't seem to have all of it on there, so it's a bit hard to tell. But if he's going to go all out for a PB or whether he's just going to have a run round. I never thought Lloyd's the sort of person that would just run round for the sake of it. So maybe he's in good shape. But I don't know. You're kind of thinking, having run a PB 2 months ago, will he be really up for it this time? So I think my hazard guess would be that I'd say he's going to just miss out this time and say do a 2:32. I think you might just find that those two marathons back to back is a bit too much, and I can't see any evidence on Strava of any massive amount of work recently, so we'll see how he goes anyway. Now, another sort of YouTuber that I saw that was running is Steph McCall here in blue, and that's Rose Harvey. And the two of them do the 5 Miles Easy podcast vodcast that I featured before. I did, though, pick up from a recent podcast that Steph McCall had kind of given up posting to Strava, and sure enough, it seems to stop in October. So I'm not quite sure what shape she's in, but I think her PB is around about 2:44, I think, when I checked it. So, yeah, very hard to give a prediction when I've got no form guide to go on. But I suspect she'll be there or thereabouts for that. So let's say 2:45, hedging my bets a bit. So if she goes a minute faster, does a PB, a minute slower, then I'll be wrong, wouldn't I? Anyway, best of luck, and that's just a complete guess with no information at all. Now, in terms of what elites are running, I found this article on the Running Junkiness Facebook group, and where they're talking about giving a substantial cash prize to anybody who breaks the world record, and then they give the women and men who are the most likely to be anywhere near that. So women with sub 2:30 PBs. And the fastest there is Amani Bariso with a 2:14:58. Now, it's rather embarrassing that a lot of these very fast females are not really even heard of, even though they're amazingly Hall. But we've got Sarah Hall there from the States at 2:20:32. She seems to race an awful lot. And for the British interest, we've got Clara Evans, PB 2:25:04. Becky Briggs there, who I spotted earlier on in the video, 2:29:06. And Alice Wright, 2:29:08. And we've also got Gerda Steen from South Africa, 2:24:03. I mentioned her because she is a former winner of the Comrades Marathon, as far as I'm aware. So on the face of it, you wouldn't think that there's too much chance of someone breaking the world record there. But let's have a look on the men's side. Now, the guy with the fastest PB is Kenenisa Bekele, so I'm interested to see whether he can go for another M40 world record. I think it needs to be about 2:3 or 2:4, something like that. Now, Sissi Lemmer, he actually won it last year in 2:1:48, so he's back to defend it, and He has won the Berlin Marathon already this year, I think, and I think he's won one other marathon major. So I'd imagine that he's going to be favourite. Also, the Beherney Legacy with a 2:48. I couldn't see any British runners in the elite field. Yeah, Stephen Scullion's obviously from Ireland, but he's down in the field. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, he won't be running. And anyone else you can spot there. Richard Ringer is also a name that sometimes comes up on YouTube, minute 2:07:08. So yeah, it's going to be a good race because I think all the YouTubers and all the elites are going to be going out all out for a time. There's going to be no messing around with shakeout runs and trying to promote a brand. It's all hot to the metal and see how fast they can run. And let's hope that it portrays Valencia in the way that runners aren't just going there to run and not take care of the situation that sadly happened a few weeks ago. And it'd be good to get an update on how things are and whether this does help the local community. Let's hope it does, and the race goes off without any issues. So moving on to Valencia here, just see what videos I've got to watch. We've got Aubrey on there on the most cushioned shoes. I'll watch that one later. Also the two running brooms there with their 5 UK best half marathons, and I should be meeting Dawn and John on Sunday because they've got a last minute entry into the British Masters 5K. So it's going to be close between John and me because I'm pleased to report I did a video myself of actual me running, and I did a sub-20 park run at the Sutcliffe Park Run with a 19:55, and I made a point I was up against John Mayock, who you just saw in blue. Now, he was Britain's best miler around about the turn of the century, and he was in the Olympics in 2000 in Sydney and the following one in the 1500, and he made an appearance in the 2008 Olympics in the 5000. So a 3-time Olympian, and you might also remember he came up to Nick Bester in the London Marathon this year and said he was a 3:49 miler. I don't think Nick really believed him. Well, I only found that he'd run a 3:50, but near enough. And there he is running there in the middle in the blue in the Olympics 1500 metre final. So yeah, it's quite something to say that you've lined up in a park run against somebody who was that good, wouldn't you? Didn't do quite so well there. You can just see him coming around the top bend as El Garouz was just about to be outkicked by Noah Yang in this Olympic final back in Sydney, and really are shifting there, aren't they? I think these days it'd be interesting to see those class of athletes against the current ones who would prevail. It's interesting sometimes looking at the comments, sometimes you get a few what I might call people trolling. So here we go. You are not a runner if you don't know who John Mayock is. Well, I think the whole point of my video is I do know who he is. You're saying you must be a jogger. Well, don't you know who I am? My ego has taken a right dip there. As for Para 10, he clearly doesn't know that I run it, or at least I do at the moment. Who has said it was accurate? Well, yeah, I think we've probably got the all-time lists fairly accurate. It wasn't even around when John was running. Sorry, 30 seconds of your video was enough to make me block your channel. Well, there you go. 30 seconds of me introducing John Mayock, and he's off for good. So yeah, my retort there was, yeah. And there's John Broom, I presume, commenting, and yeah, so John Broom commenting there. I think we had Andy FOD runner on there, so I always get some nice comments in my videos. I think I enjoy Robin Marbot there, who's just started a YouTube channel. Joseph Gonzalez, I should be racing on Sunday. Well, I say racing, he's in my age group, but I suspect he'll be about 2 or 3 minutes ahead. But yeah, see if I can get below that 19:55. I worked out if I need to do 19:38 to get 80% on age grading. So that would be a good aim, wouldn't it? And I'm really looking forward to seeing if I can have a good battle with John, because I think I'm anywhere near him. He'll probably be around about 19:30 as well, as I suspect. And it was very, very windy on the park run on Sutcliffe on Saturday. And there's an interesting AI voice improvement feature on Filmora that I use. I thought I'd use that to good effect. I didn't have any external mic on like I've got on now. I think I've got the same top on. I might have got the medium version. This is like the large one. I bought two, and obviously a slim athlete because this large one is a bit big for me. And it's interesting that being so tall, I can get away with a medium vest, isn't it? Anyway, digressing a bit. So one last video here, DC Rainmaker talking about Strava introduces big changes that will kill apps. Now, this is an interesting one. If you look at some of the Strava people that I mentioned earlier, some people seem to use it extensively, some people seem to use it sort of more half-heartedly. But what's interesting, that all the runners I feature do have a Strava account. So it's by far the most popular account to log your data. And they've introduced some feature now of removing a feature where if data was then passed on to third-party apps, the third-party apps now can only show your data and they can't kind of aggravate it. So there's an example given, if you're a coach and you had a nice view of all your athletes' data on some third-party app, that is no longer allowed. I did mention this to Andy, and he says, well, he doesn't really do it like that. He just looks on Strava. So I was thinking, in reality, will this really affect that many people? Because, yeah, I don't know quite who really uses that to any great extent. But Ray tried to contact Strava, and they didn't really give him much reply. Really, I think they just give him a standard reply saying refer to the information we've already given out. So, yeah, I think whatever Ray says, DC Rainmaker, it has a lot of sway within the industry in the sports tech world. So, yeah, if he sort of like says that this is a bad move by Strava, you'd hope that they at least wake up to that, give a more transparent reason. And yeah, but I can see it in a way because it's kind of similar to us on Power 10. If we were to give away all our data to a third-party app, they could sort of basically do all the whizzy stuff, and then don't forget a lot of the money involved is paying the staff. So yeah, I can see it from that sense. But people also say, well, Strava data is really only coming in from external sources. I mean, obviously they have their own app. A lot of people who are into running or cycling would have it from a Garmin device or a Chorus device or something like that. So Strava themselves rely on the likes of those manufacturers to actually have their data in the first place. So what happens, say, if Garmin or Chorus decided to not relay their data onto Strava? Strava would be struggling at best, wouldn't they? So yeah, it's kind of an interesting business model that you're relying on other manufacturers. It's a bit like Zwift until recently. Zwift were relying on people using third-party trainers then to come onto their app, and now they're starting to do their own hardware. And did you also see mention of a potential treadmill world championships? Nobody at Zwift seems to know anything about it either. So maybe it's another deal like with the cycling one with Maguire, but it's analogous to the golf and live where money talks for sure. Anyway, so that's probably it for this week. How do you think everyone will do in Valencia? Do you know anyone else running? Are you running yourself indeed? Best of luck if you are, and look forward to hearing in the comments how you did and how you thought of my predictions. So I hope you found this interesting. Like and subscribe for that, and see you next one then. Bye.